Welcome to Luxoft Tech Talks, a series of podcasts in which IT gurus share their knowledge and discuss the latest trends and innovations in the world of IT. We are going to cover the most recent developments in the programming languages, frameworks, and technologies that are shaping the future of the software industry. This new format of online learning is part of Luxoft Learning Management and Development Services rebranding. Please share your feedback in the comments to let us know what speakers and topics you would like us to cover in later installments.
So hi everyone. Let's talk today about how to develop with web accessibility in mind. So how can web accessibility make impaired people use your website? First of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Adrian. I'm from Spain. I'm a team lead of the web team in my company. I'm a front-end developer, and I'm a strong accessibility advocate. So accessibility, a lot of people ask me what is A11Y, the acronym for accessibility. So this is because there's 11 letters between the A and the Y in the word accessibility, and this is internationally known as the acronym for accessibility. So why is this in the real world so obvious that those four situations are wrong? So in the first two, the ramps are very dangerous for someone with a wheelchair. And the second and the third one, there's stairs at the end of the ramp. And in the fourth one, it is totally unusable and inaccessible ramp. So another example of accessibility. So someone with a wheelchair arrive and press the accessibility button, and the door opens for it. Very good, but surprise, surprise, there is stairs. So why is this so obvious in the real world, but it's not so obvious in the online world? So for example, you are in the e-commerce web shop and you want to know your latest purchases. So you call the help desk, the support team, and they can tell you something like, oh, you need to click in the button with the top right corner. Or you want to change your email address, so they can tell you something that you need to click in the button with the engine icon. But for blind people, there's no such as top right corner or engine icon. So we need to have this in mind. Let me tell you something about accessibility. So accessibility is essential for developers and organization because we are not excluding anyone to be able to use our product. That means the websites, tool, and technologies are designed and developed so people with disabilities can use them. The director and inventor of the World Wide Web, which the WWW today is its 31st anniversary, said the power of the web is in its universality. Access by everyone, regardless of disability, is essential aspect. So let me give you some numbers. 2 years ago, we were in the world 7.6 billion around, and more than 1 billion people live with some form of visual impairment. So when we develop an application and we said we want to reach as much audience as possible, those numbers are your audience as well. So let's talk about how to develop web accessibility, what I call how does your website sound like. People with a visual impairment normally use a screen reader to be able to navigate through a website instead of a mouse. And every operating system comes with built-in screen reader. So in my case, I'm using a Mac. So I will use today VoiceOver to show you some examples on how does a website can sound like. So let's see how can we apply some best practices when developing web accessibility. So the first example that I want to show you is language. Defining the correct natural language in your page is very important because those screen readers can choose the correct voice and the character set of the language that is displayed. So In the first example, the HTML language tag is English, but we have two links, one in English, one in Russian. So the screen reader is going to use the character set of English to read both, which is completely wrong. So in the second example, you can see how the language of the second link is Ru for Russian. So maybe I can show you in an example on how this could look like and sound like. So I'm gonna turn on my voiceover, my screen reader.
Voiceover on Safari.
And I'm gonna go to the first link, which is only in English.
Example. You are currently on a heading level link. Link. Use this link to go to a new page.
So you can see how the character set is set to English. But in the second example, I have, in the code, you can see that in the link, the first link, the language is Russian, but the text is in English. So you can see the difference now.
Link.
Use this link to go to a new page.
So this would be the Russian character set, which is completely wrong. And the next example is Russian writing with the Russian character set.
Link.
Используйте эту ссылку, чтобы перейти на новую страницу.
So in this case, we are using the correct character set for the correct text. But in the next example is the other round. I'm using the English character set for a Russian link.
Link. Используйте ссылку, чтобы перейти на новую страницу.
So this is, like this we can see and we can hear the difference and see the importance of using the language tag in HTML. So in the next example, I'm mixing two languages in the same sentence. So in the first one, I'm not putting any language tag. So
Horizontal heading. I believe that in Russian, when you want to greet someone, you can say, Привет, как ты?
Which is only with using the English character set. But in the next example, here I'm using the language Russian only for the quote tag. So
I believe that in Russian, when you don't know the other person, you can say,
Привет, как ты?
So in this case, I'm using the correct character set, the same as in the previous example. And the same works for the image alt property inside an image. So in the first example,
link image, a person using a computer.
and in the second example,
Link image.
Человек, использующий компьютер.
so we can see,
Voiceover off.
And let's go back to the presentation. So we can see that using the language tag in HTML is quite important because visually impaired people will never understand what is the correct language of the character set. Another example, and we saw it in the previous one, is that every image must have an alt attribute. So in the example with the red X, that means the wrong one. I'm using an image which is dog.jpg, but for a screen reader, the only information that we are giving is the image title, which it could be a hash. So it could be 123abc.jpg. That doesn't mean anything. So we should use the alt tags or the alt attribute to put a description of what the image is representing. That means what you would describe in the image. So in this case, it's a dog playing with a ball. It doesn't represent happiness, but it's a dog playing with a ball. So it is, this sentence should be the description of the image. The next one, the tab order. So we normally navigate through, we not visually impaired people navigate through a website using a mouse. But normally visually impaired people, either they navigate using a special keyboard or they navigate using the tab key. So everything that is in your website should be accessible via the tab key, and the order of these tabs should be consistent with the meaning of the content of your website. So I can show you again an example of this. In this example, in the Occidental world, we normally read top to bottom and left to right. So it could potentially be logic that the order of this form will be like this one, then 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 this one. Because, again, top to bottom, left to right. But in this case, I want the tab order to be, let's fill the first column first and then the second column. So in the HTML, I have tab index equal and the number of the index that I want to follow. So I will be tabbing now, and I'm tabbing over the first column and then over the second column. So this is very important as well for the content of your website. ARIA. Let's talk about ARIA. ARIA, Accessible Rich Internet Application. It is a set of attributes defined by the W3C, which is the community that sets the HTML and CSS standards for every browser. So ARIA, this set of attributes are purely used for making the website more accessible to people with disabilities. The good thing with ARIA is that they don't affect anything in the website. So they don't affect the content of your website, and they don't affect the design of your website. They are, again, used only for accessibility. You should use them only, so you should use the correct semantic HTML elements and do not use the ARIA attributes to fix your errors. So know your HTML better and do not use ARIA to fix your errors. And we will see now how. And use the ARIA dash attribute, but test them before using them because they need to make sense. So ARIA has some rules. And the first rule, it is to not use ARIA if you don't need to use it. So HTML provides enough HTML elements or native elements to be used. That means if you want to use a button, then use a button. Do not fake a div with the role button, because this is completely wrong. Because buttons in this case are focusable, clickable with mouse and keys, and the screen readers identify them as buttons. So if HTML provides you with already an element, a native element to use, do not use ARIA. What we said before, do not use ARIA to fix your errors. Know your HTML. The second rule in ARIA is to not change the native semantics unless you really have to. So in the first case, we are changing the semantics of an H2, which is a heading, something that has a higher grade of importance in your website, to make a role equal tab. That means we are changing the semantic to act like a tab. Do not do that, because you don't have to do that. You don't need to do that. You can use a div, which is a container tag, and then you can use the role tab. The third rule is all interactive ARIA controls must be usable using the keyword. As we said before, all the visually impaired people normally use and normally navigate through your website using the tab keyboard and not the mouse. So everything that you can access with the mouse, you should be able to access using the tab. The fourth rule is to not use role presentation or ARIA hidden true on a focusable element. What does it mean? Role presentation and ARIA hidden true hits elements for the screen readers. That means they make them invisible for them. But if it's a focusable element, you should be able to focus on them. So do not use them in a focusable element, but instead in a non-focusable element or something that you want to hide for a screen reader. And the fifth rule is all interactive elements must have an accessible name. In the first example, we have an input, which is a typed text, but it's completely inaccessible. We don't know what that input is. So in the second one, we are attaching a label via the ID of the input. Now the input has a context, which is going to be the username. So please have this in mind when you develop your forms or any other interactive element like buttons or links. So those are the 5 ARIA rules that you need to know when using these ARIA attributes. Those are the ARIA attributes, some of them. This is ARIA 1.0. And we have as well roles for interactive and non-interactive elements. So I will show you some examples. The first example is ARIA label. ARIA label provides the context of the element that you are focusing, and you should be using ARIA label when the text label of the object is not visible in the window. So in the example, we have a button with the word with the letter X, and normally for us it's pretty obvious that X means close, closing a window. But the screen reader will never know what X means. So you need to add some context to the button. Let me show you a demo. So in this example, let me turn on my screen reader again. Okay.
Voiceover on Safari.
So now I am here. Perfect.
Example.
So the first example, I have 2 numbers. The first number, let's tap in it.
Link. +7 666 1 2 3 4 4321.
So it is purely a number. It doesn't say anything. So I don't know the context of this number. But if you see the HTML code of the second example, I'm using an ARIA label to add some context. So if I tab,
You are currently on a link. Inside link. Call the support team.
so instead of a number, it's telling me call the support team. Now I know the action that is going to be performed when I click and I press enter in this link. So again, using ARIA label when the text that I want to use is not visible in the DOM, in the window. Call the support team is not anywhere around. The same with the X buttons.
X button.
So X button means nothing. There's X is just a letter. But if you want to add more context, you can add an ARIA label to say
Close the current window button.
So now we know that the action that is going to be performed is close the current window. So this is very important for the context of your elements. The other example is ARIA label by. So we said that we use ARIA label when the text that we want to put in the ARIA label is not visible in the window. But sometimes the text that we want to display to be read by the screen reader is visible in the window. So then we use ARIA label by using the IDs of the text. So in the next example,
Multiple.
Okay, I'm having a registration form, but the inputs are name. So the inputs are name and address. But name is very broad. It could be any name or it could be any address. It could be shipping address, it could be payment, it could be my address. So we don't know what it is. So if I want to give more context and I want to read the title of the form, I need to give the title of the form an ID. So in this case, it's contact. And I use ARIA label by using the ID of the title and the ID of the input. So in the second case, in this case is
registration name, registration address.
So it's the same registration name or registration address. Now I know the context of the form. The same for the next for the next one with the radio buttons.
Car color blue, car color Ford.
So I know that I am in a
voiceover
car
off.
color form. So blue and red means something. Actually, this is red. So So I know that blue and red are the context in the context of a car color. Button. Again, we said do not use ARIA when you can use a native HTML instead. Okay, so why should we use a button and not fake a div which is meant to be used as a container to fake a button? Because buttons are focusable, are clickable, and the screen readers identify them as buttons. So again, I have a small demo to show you. So in this case, I have three elements that look like a button. So in the first case, I'm showing you the code. It is an anchor link with the class button, just this is for the styling, with the ARIA label continue. The second one, same, I'm styling as a button. I have the ARIA label continue. I say to the screen reader, hey, look, this is a button. And with the tab index 0, I'm making it focusable. And in the third case, I have a real button. So when I click, and I'm adding the click listener to every button that has, every element that has the class button. So every time that I click, I will see the alert who say you click me. But what happened when I use the tab navigator, the tab key? So let's tap one time. Oh, the first one is skipped. Why? Because anchor links without the href are not focusable. Because I don't know where to go if you don't provide an href, which is the destination of a link. Why is the second one focusable when the anchor link doesn't have an href? Because I say tab index equals 0. So I'm faking the focus. And in the third one is obviously, because it's out of the box, is a button. What happened when I tried to press enter as the click button? So let's try with the first one. Okay. In this case, nothing is happening because an anchor link is not clickable. But in the example of a button, if I press enter, then it's clickable. The same happens with the disabled buttons. The first example is the anchor link, the so-called fake button. And in the second is a button with the attribute disable. That means disabled buttons are not focusable. So in the first one, I can still focus, but in the second one, is skipped. So that's why it's the importance of using a real button when you want to use the button. So do not fake any anchor links or any div with a role button. Focus and focus visible. So normally, maybe I can go and show you again so you see this square when I hover, when I tap, this is the focus of the button. So sometimes your designer will tell you, oh, this outline around the inputs, buttons, or links, it doesn't really fit with our corporate image. So can you delete it? Do not do it, never, unless you provide custom styles. So in the case that I showed you before, instead of the normal blue shadow that Google Chrome has, I decided to define my custom style with this, which is a square. This is the visual feedback for links that have focus when navigating. Again, links, inputs, buttons. So someone who's forgot the glasses at home and they see blurry, they need to know where is the focus at all time. So this is the visual feedback for them to know if I click in enter, where am I? So this is very important as well. JavaScript, okay? So we live in a world with Vue, Angular, React, a lot of frameworks, but we need to understand The JavaScript is a language that doesn't have any fallback. So if you have an error in your JavaScript, the application will not continue executing. So your application is not usable. But as well, we need to understand that with all these frameworks and the good old jQuery, we can update the content of a website in runtime. So visually, you can see that an alert arrived. So for example, you are sending a message in a form and then you can say the message has been sent. But for someone who's blind, these people will never see this. So they don't know that the message has been sent correctly. So we have something called ARIA Live region, or in this case, the roles. And I will show you an example of what it means. So I put a long text in a button so I can perform an action in the middle of that. And I have two options, okay? I have role status. So I wrap an alert message which is hidden and it will appear when I click the button. And I have a role alert. What does this mean? This means that the role status has an ARIA Live polite. Polite means I, screen reader, am going to read my current message until it finishes. Politely, I'm gonna wait, and then I'm gonna announce the role status. In the second case, the role is alert. That means, hey, there is something happening and I want you to know immediately. That's why the ARIA Live is assertive. So it's gonna break the flow and it's gonna read it immediately. So let me show you how it sounds like. So I'm gonna turn on the voiceover again.
Voiceover on Safari. ARIA Labels.
Okay, so I'm going to press enter in the middle of the message, in the middle of the button message, so we can see visually the message and we'll see how polite it's working.
Sending a message is important, so I will do it for you. So please click this button. Button. The message has been sent.
So the message has been sent.
You are currently on.
The message has been sent was read at the end of the screen reader reading the whole message of the button. But let's see what's happened when the ARIA Live is assertive or when I have a role alert. I'm gonna do the same. I'm gonna click in the middle of the message and let's see if the screen reader stops the flow.
Sending a message is important. There was an error. Please try again later.
So we saw, I'm gonna turn voiceover off.
Voiceover off.
We saw that when the ARIA Live is assertive, or in this case, the role is alert, which inherits the ARIA Live assertive, breaks the flow. So stop reading what you are reading in the moment and tell me that something happened. And in this case, it is the developer to decide if this is important enough. The developer or the product manager or the UX designer is responsible to say, yes, this is a alert, or no, this is a status. That means we need to be polite and leave the message run until the end and then read the alert, or stop what you're doing and then inform that something happened. So this has the strong human component here. So what I show you today is some of the best practices when developing web accessibility. So we saw about language in the HTML page. We show that every image must have an alt attribute, even if it's an image that is only for decorative purposes. The alt attribute needs to be present but empty. So in quotes but empty quotes. The top order of your website must be consistent with the meaning of the content. We show some ARIA labels, ARIA attributes, and we show the ARIA rules. We show that we do not have to delete the focus outline unless you provide a custom style. And we show how JavaScript changes the content of the website on runtime and how to inform the screen reader users with ARIA Live regions. So all these examples are under this URL. It's a collection that I created in CodePen, so you can try them again. And you can find the slides of this talk or any other of my talks under the speakerdev.com/Bolonio. And if you want a little bit more information about how to test web accessibility, I have a series of articles in my website. And I want to strongly recommend you to make a brand new course in edX by the W3C. Again, this is the official institution that creates the HTML and CSS standards. They created a web accessibility introduction course, not only for tech people, but for everyone. So it's very useful. So I will encourage you to make it. And I want to leave with a couple of sentences. So I like this one in particular. Said it's not just about disabled users being able to access your website. It's about everyone being able to access your website. You would never know when you are situational disabled. That means you broke your glasses or you forget your glasses. You don't have your mouse with you. You have a kid with you, and then you have to use only the website with the hand. So you need to use tab. Your screen is broken, it's completely black, so you need to hear what a website sounds like because you need to buy flights or you need to purchase something urgently. So it's for everyone, not only for visually impaired people, because accessibility is not a feature. We need to include accessibility development in our daily development flow, the same as we do with testing or the same that we do with UX reviewing. So please treat accessibility as part of the development process and never as a feature of the process. And thank you.